So, lovely people, day 3 of the Gut Health Masterclass. So, today we looked at dairy, wheat, gluten. We also looked at yeast-free diets and the low FODMAP. And so today we're going to delve more into these particular diets and why it's beneficial to use them, what we can gain from actually following, especially a dairy-free, gluten-free and wheat-free diet. So it'd be interesting to know, in fact, with regards to everybody who's on here today, if you're not already following a dairy, wheat-free, gluten-free diet, is that something that you are looking to try out to see whether or not that is going to be of benefit to you? It'd be interesting to know, if that's something that you're up for, because I know it can be a big thing, especially if we have a lot of these types of products in our diet already. It can sometimes feel a bit scary, like what the heck am I going to eat? What am I going to put in my drink? What am I going to put, or what am I going to have for breakfast if my usual breakfast is toast? If I'm so used to grabbing a sandwich at lunchtime, the thought of, well, how am I going to do this? And I know, especially with some of my male clients as well, who maybe previously were out on the road, trying to grab anything that was healthy that wasn't maybe wheat-based in the form of a sandwich was quite tricky to do. So Tara's saying already wheat and gluten-free, but want to be dairy-free too. And Rachel is going to go and give it a try. So that's good. Yeah. And it'd just be good, keep in touch with me and, do let me know how you get on and what your experiences are, because it's great to be able to share those experiences with other people as well. So, do you long to be free from pain and discomfort? I'm guessing if you are on here, you're wanting that. And the whole reason for you joining this masterclass is so that you can potentially find out if there is something that you can do that is going to help you move forward with respect to your gut health. So I really do hope, as always, that the information I'm going to share with you today and for the rest of the week is going to be really helpful. Is going to help you move forward, help you with your understanding, because I think that for me was a key thing, the frustration of not understanding, where to go and what to do and how I could help myself. Because I think at the end of the day, that is what we want, isn't it? We want to be able to help ourselves to, understand what's going on in our systems and to try different things to see whether or not they are beneficial. So yes, I would love you to stay engaged with me, and keep in touch after these 7 days as well. And you can do that via the Facebook page. I'm always posting in there. It'd be great for you guys to come in and perhaps, drop some comments in or, share some of the posts as well so that we can spread awareness. And, I'm always wanting to reach more people who are struggling like I was all those years ago, to let them know that, not to give up hope, because I know I got to a point where I almost did, that, if I can suffer for 20 years and come through it, then, there really is hope for everybody. So let's have a look. So Gail's saying she needs to plan a little better to remove more wheat and gluten as keep slipping up. Yeah, and it is, it's there's a lot of planning to do. And Myra says she's tried many times and eventually couldn't find anything fulfilling for breakfast. Myra, maybe we should have a chat then. And Julie wants to try dairy free. So yes, but yeah, if anybody wants to, you've always got that option, and I'll say it at the end of every presentation, to book in for your free consultation. If I can help you in any way, if you're struggling with anything, then use me. It's what I'm here for. Okay, so credentials. I think everybody knows who I am, who is on here. So yes, health clinic owner, chronic hydrotherapist, nutrition therapist, wellbeing coach, and also yoga therapist. But more so, I do my yoga practice for myself these days. I am looking to start back up teaching at some point, and still progressing with my own training. And that's something that's just very close to my heart as well. So are you sick and tired of feeling bloated and not knowing the cause? I know for me, this was my main bugbear. And I really did think all the years when I had been bloated and constipated that it was the constipation that was causing the bloating. So I was beyond distressed when I rectified the constipation, my bowel was moving every day and I was still left with the same degree of bloating. And honestly, it was one of those head in hands kind of moments, or head against brick wall. Like, why am I still bloated now that my constipation has been rectified? So there are so many different reasons for being bloated. So if this is something that you're struggling with, again, if you want to chat with me further about any of your experiences, please do. But I would also encourage you to try just going wheat, dairy and gluten-free and just see whether that helps you. And obviously also implementing all the laying the foundation tips. So those 6 key steps that you can try to help improve your digestive system. Because for me, for sure, not chewing my food thoroughly, eating when I was stressed out, not being mindful, not sitting at a table, probably walking around when I was eating, all these things just put so much stress on my already distressed digestive system that really there's no hope. If we don't put the fundamentals in and bring everything back to basics, then we are not going to get anywhere, no matter what we do with our digestive health. So are you ready to take control of your IBS and get your life back? I hope that you are. I hope that's the reason that you're on here, to learn some key information, and hopefully that this is really going to help you move forward. So as you know, chronic IBS for the best part of 20 years, but the food reactions were absolutely huge for me. And again, massive frustration in not actually understanding what they were. Now, I definitely knew cow's milk because it was pretty instant with me, and I definitely knew wheat, but I also knew that there were other things I was reacting to that I really struggled to pinpoint. But by at least getting away or getting rid of these irritants, my body was able to heal to some degree. But then it was about finding out the other irritants, the other things that my body was reacting to. So you all received your food diary the other day, and I really would encourage you to fill this out each day, because when we come to the session on food sensitivities, I can just talk you through how you can use your food diary, and ideally more than 1 week. Sometimes we need to do it, ongoing for maybe a month, to be able to decipher some kind of pattern and see something that is going on and what we might be reacting to. So yeah, I had to, like I say, avoid the dairy, the wheat. I also had a yeast infection, Candida albicans, so I was on a yeast-free diet. I avoided gluten. I couldn't eat any nuts, lots of different vegetables, but especially the cruciferous vegetables, and especially cauliflower. That was a real bad one for me. And then I think it got to one point where I tested positive for a reaction to lettuce, and I was just thought, this is literally beyond a joke. Like, what on earth is in lettuce other than maybe water that anyone could react to? But yeah, hence why I was in chronic pain after eating a salad, because I was having iceberg lettuce at that point. So yes, that's me in a nutshell. So why remove dairy, gluten and wheat? Anybody care to pop that one in to the chat box? Let's see who was paying attention yesterday. So we remove dairy, wheat and gluten pretty much because they are so difficult for the system to digest. And if we've got any kind of digestive issue, then removing these major irritants is going to help us to heal our gut. So dairy, like we said yesterday, either the protein casein or the sugar, which is lactose, one or the other, or sometimes possibly even both, a person may react to. Either not have the enzyme to digest the lactose, as in the lactase that we need, or react badly to casein, which is the protein which we find in dairy. And then wheat and gluten. So obviously wheat contains gluten and has the highest amount of gliadin, which is the gluten protein. And this is what people react to. This is what is the major gut irritant, and also produces, if you remember from yesterday, these toxic byproducts and also gas. And it's the protein gliadin, which is the major gut irritant, and has also been found in research to be the initial trigger of autoimmune conditions whereby the body attacks itself. So we really do, especially if there's any autoimmune conditions in the family, or you're thinking maybe you've got leaky gut, which can lead on to autoimmune conditions, then these are the things that we want to be removing. At least these things we want to be removing. We may also want to remove other things depending on what comes up for us. Because at the end of the day, if we keep anything in the diet that we are sensitive to, so if we know we're reacting to something, and I know I was really bad for this because certain things that I had in my diet I really enjoyed, and to be honest, it's usually the things that you really do enjoy which are the things that you are reacting to. So unfortunately, we sometimes have to get rid of the things that we really like in order to heal. So just bear that one in mind. So the difference between wheat and gluten. So wheat is the gluten containing grain, and gluten is the protein found in all grains. And I mean all grains. Not everybody reacts to all grains. Some people will do, especially if there's autoimmune condition. It is best to get rid of them, but they're in a much higher quantity in the likes of wheat, barley and rye. So some individuals are intolerant to wheat, but they can actually have other grains. So for example, if we look at rye, rye has 16% approximately of gliadin in there, as opposed to wheat, which can have, 70 or above. So that can be the reason why wheat is the one that most people react to, because it has the higher content of the gliadin protein, which is the intestinal irritant. So wheat substitutes then. So if we are, for example, doing a baby step into removing dairy, wheat and gluten, it might be that we will do week one, we'll just look at removing wheat. And if we were going to look, say, just to remove wheat, then the alternatives to wheat would be barley, rye, oat, spelt, camotes. But just to be aware that these do still contain gluten. They just don't have the high amount that you would find in wheat. So then we also have the gluten-free alternative. So amaranth, which is an ancient grain, should I say, buckwheat, which gets very confusing because it has wheat within its name. So how can it be gluten-free? But it is. Quinoa, I don't know if anybody's tried quinoa. It's really lovely. You can flavour it in any which way you want to. Use it instead of couscous, and it only takes about 15 minutes to cook as well. You can get white or red quinoa, which is really nice. So it starts off like in a little ball shape, and then as you cook it, it kind of unravels. Looks quite pretty, and on the picture that is your quinoa. And then we've also got things like your bean flours, so soy, chickpea, corn, millet, rice, and there's all types of different rice as well. So try experimenting if you're not used to having rice. So a lot of people just fall back on white rice, which is basically just sugar, just converts to sugar straight away in the body. No nutrient value because it's so processed. So what we want to be doing is we want to be having whole grain. So things like brown rice, brown basmati rice, red rice, black rice. You can get mixtures of all three. And they're really nice. I would always recommend soaking them to remove the arsenic, because unfortunately where rice is grown, it does contain arsenic in the paddies. So if you soak it overnight and then give it a good rinse, then you will remove the majority, if not all, of the arsenic down the sink, and then you can enjoy your rice. So yes, these are your gluten-free alternatives, of which there are many. So we never need to feel like we don't have enough variety in our diets. So alternatives to gluten-based flours then. So gram flour, which is also known as chickpea flour. I use this quite a lot. It's really nice in cooking. Great to use to thicken up sauces as well. Lentil flour is nice. Corn flour, most people I think will have used for thickening up sauces. And if we are, for example, experimenting with making gluten-free bread, even if anybody wants a recipe, by all means contact me. I have quite a good recipe for a soda bread, and soda bread's really easy to make. And I found through experimenting that using maybe 3 or 4 different flours is what's helpful when we go experimenting with making gluten-free bread. It just seems to give a nicer consistency than just using one type of gluten-free flour. And it can be really tasty, and it lasts really well. I tend to make 2 batches if I'm making any. I haven't made any for ages, if I'm honest. I just steer clear completely of flour. But I used to make it in batches of 2, and I used to cut it up and pop it into the freezer, and it freezes really well as well. And then alternatives to gluten-based cereal. So if anybody's wanting to make, say, their own cereal, you know, you can get your own container, a lot cheaper than buying gluten-free cereal. You know, pop in your quinoa flakes, your rice puffs, buckwheat flakes, etc. Get your nuts and seeds in there for the protein and for additional nutrients as well. And yeah, make up a really nice gluten-free cereal. I tend to add, what do I add to mine? Coconut. So desiccated coconut, just pure desiccated coconut. Be aware of buying it from the supermarket. Have a look on the back, because quite often it's got sugar or icing sugar in there as well, which isn't flagged up on the front. And then we've got lots of different wheat pasta alternatives. Now, I always encourage people to go with whole grains, because with whole grains, there's less processing, and therefore you receive much higher nutritional content. However, now and again, we just want a little bit of pasta, don't we? So it's nice to just have some pasta alternatives in there. Dove's Farm do a nice, just pure brown rice pasta. You can also get chickpea. So I get really nice fresh chickpea pasta from Ocado, which I had last night, which is lovely. It takes literally a couple of minutes to cook with it being fresh. So good if you're in a rush. But then also think about using vegetables in placement of pasta. So has anybody spiralized before? I love spiralizing. So courgette, we can spiralize sweet potato, we can spiralize squash. So these are all the things that we can think about as well. We don't have to just be thinking of grains, because quite often people just can't tolerate them anyway. They can set up an inflammatory response. So using vegetables, we will get more nutrients. And if we're wanting to lose weight at all, they're generally less calorific than their grain alternatives. So what gluten-free products to avoid? So I've just put a few on here. So made without and beef-free. There's loads of others on the market. But majority of gluten-free breads contain a lot of starches, so potato starch, maize starch, tapioca, rice, etc. So what we want to be doing is looking on the back of labels to see what is contained in the products that we're buying. So a lot of the time when we're trying to get healthy, we just need to be aware of labels. And I would always say the less processed food you have in your diet, the healthier you're going to be as a whole, because people quite often jump on the gluten-free bandwagon thinking this is healthy, and it really isn't. And you know, sometimes we are much better off having the alternatives than actually having the gluten-free products. So I would always say go for naturally gluten-free rather than processed gluten-free wherever you can. Obviously, you know, you want a little bit of toast now and again. It's not going to kill you to have a little bit of gluten-free bread if it's something that you really crave and you would feel that you were really missing out. And it can be a transition as well. So, you know, have some in. Usually they freeze quite well. It's more when we're having them every single day. And especially, you know, if we've got any issues with risk of diabetes or heart diseases, or, you know, if we're struggling with our weight, then these sorts of products are not the types of ones that we want to be including in our diet. So non-dairy calcium-rich foods. So we talked yesterday about dairy, and you know, if we're going to embark on a dairy-free diet, we want to make sure that we still have enough calcium in our diet. So where do we get calcium from if we're not going to get it through, you know, cow's milk, or, you know, cheese made from cow's milk? So here we have, you know, a list of great products that we can have in there. Your dark green vegetables, which are really alkaline. So kale, broccoli, collards, sprouts, and especially things like, I don't know if anyone's ever tried broccoli sprouts. So broccoli sprouts are awesome. For me, I try and eat them daily. So they're really high in sulforaphane, which is just amazing in the respect to its health benefits and protection against cancer, if nothing else. They're still doing research into this area, but it's got like literally, I think, is it maybe even like 50 to 100 times more sulforaphane than, say, even raw broccoli. And raw broccoli in comparison to cooked broccoli has 10 times more. So when we're thinking about cooking our vegetables as well, we want to make sure that we're not cooking them to death. So just lightly steaming for, 3 to 5 minutes is adequate when we're using steam to steam vegetables. And then you can also get calcium fortified foods such as tofu. Sesame seeds are very high in calcium. I have tahini quite a lot, which is the paste, which you can use in cooking. You can use it for desserts as well. It's really yummy. Almonds are the highest calcium nut on the market. And then we have legumes and some seaweeds. And also your alternative milks, you'll generally find that they are actually fortified with calcium as well. But they're missing the link, as we're all pretty much deficient in vitamin D unless we're taking it on a regular basis. And we need vitamin D to enable us to absorb calcium. So really quite crucial to make sure that you are adequate in your vitamin D. And I know genetically for myself, I don't have the receptors. So I have to be very careful, especially coming into winter, that I make sure that I supplement with vitamin D. So let me just pop into the chat and just see what people are saying here. So where do I mainly buy my substitute products from? So if you're anywhere near the Unicorn in Charlton, I tend to buy quite a lot from them. Otherwise, I buy things from Sainsbury's. So I use the Plenish range of milks when I'm doing dairy free. What else do I? Oh, Ocado. I think Ocado is amazing. It's online, so very safe at the minute. You don't have to even leave your front door to actually go and yeah, get some really great gluten-free alternatives. And you can view all the labels on there as well. So that's a really great one, to do some research into. And so Gail's asking, do you have some weekly meal planners to share? I don't actually. I don't actually do weekly meal planners as such. It's something that I'm looking into doing with regards to the Platinum program for Transform Your Gut. So that's still in progress at the moment because I'm just developing all the recipes. But once I have that, then the weekly meal planners would be something that I would be looking to do as well. Right, so let's close that down. So how to implement a dairy-free diet. So ideally over a period of 2 to 4 weeks, and just with a view at the end of that period to becoming completely dairy-free. So some people just will find it more difficult than others to transition straight from having quite a lot of dairy to not. So this is quite a good way of experimenting with different dairy-free products that you like. And then by the end of 2 or 4 week period, hopefully you will have found the ones that replace your dairy and feel more confident to move forward without having dairy in your diet. So the idea is to remove it. So for example, cheese, we could use tofu, milk for oat or a nut milk, and then butter with coconut oil. I wouldn't really recommend going for any of the margarine alternatives because again, they're just, they're not healthy, should we say. So FODMAPs, low FODMAP. So we said yesterday, we follow a low FODMAP diet if we have SIBO, which is, why is my mind just gone blank now? Small intestinal bacterial overgrowth. We've got too much going on in here at the moment. I think I've just clocked the time and thought, hurry up. Right, so acronym for fermentable oligosaccharides, disaccharides, monosaccharides, and polyol. So these are your short chain carbs and sugar alcohols that are poorly absorbed in the small intestine and can cause a lot of issues, including bloating mostly for people, but also urgency, diarrhea as well can be a big one if we've got SIBO. So these are your high FODMAPs. I think we covered these off yesterday. So amazing foods on here that we don't want to not have in our diet. So we only want to be following low FODMAP for a minimum really of, or a maximum, should I say, of 6 weeks, and be working on getting rid of the SIBO. So how to implement the FODMAP diet? So similar really to the dairy-free one, you know, weeks 1 to 2, look at reducing the high FODMAPs. Weeks 2 to 6, remove all high FODMAPs, and then 6 to 12, we want to be looking to reintroduce. And this is where the food diary really comes in helpful, so that we can try one at a time and we can be vigilant as to, are we reacting or not to that particular type of FODMAP. So yeast-free plan then. So forbidden foods, you know, gosh, yeast obviously, because we don't want to feed it anymore, but sugar is a huge feeder of any yeast, so we don't want to be having sugar. Mushrooms, as they're a fungus. Vinegar, now Carolyn asked yesterday about the apple cider vinegar. I tend to find most people are actually okay with the apple cider vinegar, but I would say just experiment. If you're super sensitive or have a very high yeast infection, then it might not be that you will tolerate the apple cider vinegar, but definitely all other fermented products and vinegars we would say to remove. Alcohol, especially obviously your beers and your wines, the ones that are more tolerated would be clean spirits like gin and vodka. Not that I'm encouraging you to fill your boots there. And then your dairies, your milk, cheese, yogurt, etc. Peanuts, because they are generally very moldy, and other nuts as well. Ideally, we want them to be freshly cracked where possible, but this only generally tends to be around Christmas time when these come out. And then dried fruit is very high in sugar. White pasta, rice and bread, because they just convert straight to sugar, so we want to be replacing those with the whole meal alternatives. And then in terms of minimizing starch, so we want to reduce our carbohydrates and starchy carbs as well. So we would say no more than 1/3 of a plate. And with your nuts, if they're not freshly cracked, you can actually soak them overnight and then rinse and discard the water in the morning. So those are the foods that we want to stay away from. And then the foods to eat. So this is what we want to be focusing on. So rather than going, oh my goodness, I can't have, which is exactly what I did when I found out I had a candida infection and I had to go on a yeast-free diet and found out that yeast was pretty much in everything and was just having a complete meltdown. If we focus more on the foods that we can eat, I mean, look at this, all vegetables. I mean, how amazing is that? All the amazing vegetables that you can eat, just mushrooms. The only one you can't eat is mushrooms. So fill your plate with lots of different colourful vegetables and green leafy vegetables, especially for their alkalinity. Lean meat, ideally organic and grass-fed. Oily fish and white fish, try to avoid the tuna as it's very high in mercury, and also try to get line caught because we want to have this high omega-3 content. And if it's wild, it will be eating algae and therefore have the omega-3, and if it's farmed, then it won't and therefore will be deficient in omega-3. And omega-3 is very protective, so we want to be having that. And then foods to eat as well, coconut, almonds, hazelnut, hemp milk alternatives to cow's milk, and then your other nuts that we said other than peanuts. And then in terms of fruit, go with your low sugar fruits, so berries, try all berries as well. Don't stick to just one because they've all got different phytochemicals in there, which are really important, and lots of antioxidants as well. And then your low sugar apples and pears, so not the real sweet varieties. And then drinks. So green tea, if anyone's not tried green tea, I encourage you to try green tea. I used to hate it. I mean, with a passion. I tried every single green tea on the market, every different flavor, and just couldn't tolerate it at all. And then I think it was one of my clients actually told me to try the rooibos one, and it was very light. And that is what actually got me into green tea. I started with a very light one and I worked my way all the way up to really strong matcha green tea. I find Pukka do a really nice range of green teas. They're very light, they're very tasty. There's no bitter after effect, because I think that was what I didn't like, and that's what a lot of my clients report as well, that bitterness. A lot of the bitterness comes when they're using maybe the ends of the leaves, or they've been dried for too long. Not good quality, and can also be if we use the water too hot. So My kettle will boil to 70, 80, 90 or 100. So I never really boil it to 100. Green tea is best at 80 degrees. So let your kettle come off the boil and maybe add a drop of water, cold water, when you are making your green tea. And then all the other teas as well. So fennel tea is very good for the digestive system. Peppermint tea, great for if you're bloated. Ginger, if you're feeling nauseous, you know, lemon and ginger tea is lovely. Licorice helps with the adrenals if we're feeling stressed. And then you've got your rooibos caffeine free teas as well. So lots of different ones that you can be having. Just make sure that you are regularly flushing out the system and having enough pure water or herbal teas throughout the day. So extra things that you can include as well. So coconut oil, 1 to 2 tablespoons a day. So it's the caprylic acid in coconut oil that is super helpful for helping to kill off yeast and especially candida. So you could add to smoothies, add it to your porridge in the morning. You can make your gluten-free granola with coconut oil. That's really yummy. So there's lots of different ways that we can use coconut oil. You can even make a paste. So coconut oil, melt it, a little bit of honey, local honey would be great, especially if you have allergies to pollen, and then turmeric. So you can pop turmeric in there, anti-inflammatory, and you can use that as a paste. You could make a nice latte out of that with some almond milk, which is lovely. Or you can just eat off the spoon, which I often do in the morning, and just watch for the staining. Is all I would say. So it's also safe for oil as well, I should add, for cooking at high temperatures, because it doesn't turn rancid after 180 as other oils do. And extra virgin olive oil we can also use for cooking, but keep below 180 and use it to dress your vegetables and your salads. And also, if you're not using the pink Himalayan salt, 84 minerals in there. So it's a great one to swap for your regular table salt, move over to the Himalayan salt and get the benefit for ingesting all those minerals on a daily basis. And then garlic, yeast doesn't like garlic. So the raw garlic is the better. So maybe making, if you can tolerate chickpeas, you can make your own hummus or buy organic hummus. Ideally look for it without rapeseed oil. Rapeseed oil is toxic. Look for it made with extra virgin oil. Let me just pop in the chat and just see what people are saying here. Okay, Julie's having to jump off. Imara's having loads of garlic. Very good. A question on drinking water. If we have to wait before and after meals, how do we get enough water? Well, I get loads of water in. So you can start off, as I do in the morning, by having lots to drink. So I probably have at least, or probably way more than a pint of water in the morning, through just water with maybe lemon and also my herbal teas. I tend to delay my breakfast until 11, sometimes 12 o'clock, which is just a really great thing to do to take the weight off the digestive system. And I'm leaving a good, 4 or 5 hours in between each meal. So, 2 hours after, I'll drink quite a lot of water or herbal teas then. So we can always make sure that we can, get enough water in. And is coconut milk okay? Yeah, coconut milk is great, Julie. Oh yes, I've answered that one already. So let me just close that one down. And then, so yes, so we're nearing the end. So don't forget, if you are wanting to be free from your symptoms and you're ready to invest, if you've not done so already, if you're not already working with me on my Transform Your Gut program, then please do book in for your free exploratory consultation. Sometimes it might even be that you don't need the Transform Your Gut program. It might be something way more simple for you than that, that we could discover through this call. So day 3 giveaway, we are on the cleansing herbs. These are amazing. You can use them if you're constipated. You can use them if you're not. You would just reduce the amount that you would have. So they're great for an overnight cleanse, just using one with your evening meal. And if you are constipated, you can take up to 6 a day. But I always say start on maybe 1 3 times a day if there's constipation with your meals, and then reduce down as your bowel starts to kick in.